Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you with my co-host, Lucky Stone, and our special guest, Trina Phoenix. Thank you for coming on tonight and being here. We're going to be talking about the attachments and your free will, as we had a little short segment this Thursday. I hope you all enjoyed. Trina, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Robert. And hi, Lucky.
Hello.
And Lady Spellbreakers in the house, and Nina the Mystic are first two in. Thank you for coming tonight. And YouTube's been a little bit slow on sending out those notifications, but you know, it is what it is. Maybe the comments haven't been showing up, you said, so we'll just have to bear with it. It's their platform and they can kind of do what they please. So we're just lucky to have the content getting out there to you. So I hope everybody gets out there and likes, shares, and subscribes. Leave a comment. It keeps the algorithm going. It's very much appreciated, everyone. So tonight, Trina, this is a big one. Our free will, we talked about it the other day, but tonight I want to say, what about those attachments that may not let us have free will? We don't even know are there. Please, could you explain what that attachment might be and where we could catch it from?
You know, I think it's two different arenas, because I literally think there's a bunch of consciousnesses that we're organically connected to at birth. So that would be the stars, the sun, the moon, the different planets in our solar system. Those are going to be organic, built-in. Think of it as built-in internal technology. You're built in with those influences. They're going to come into the body and the consciousness. And then, you know, like they talk in the Bible about the 12 disciples of God and the 12 of this and the 12 of that. Well, those are the 12 cranial nerves. Again, those are antenna, picking up different signals from different parts of the universe that we're existing in. So we've got all these layers of antenna that's organic, and then our organic IT, internal technology that can connect to all these things, can get infiltrated. And our body is also an antenna, and it can become infiltrated. So there's multiple ways that this can happen. It's like there's a lot of options.
Yeah, because you know, we don't know if we've been really, can we tell if we're hijacked by, you know, has a spirit attached to us? You know, I was always thinking, well, maybe when I was a kid, I played the Ouija board and I didn't know it and I attracted some crazy spirit, or maybe I was at, you know, some event and that realized that I'm psychic and it said, hey, or maybe it just related to me and said, I want to go home with you. And it did. And I'm really not making my own decisions sometimes. And then I wonder, because have you ever had that moment when you made a decision and you went, well, why did I do that? Could that be it?
Yeah.
Well,
I see that again. That happens to people through so many things. I think it can happen through getting drunk. It can happen. Yeah, substance, any kind of get really wasted, get roofied. I mean, you know what I mean? There's so many ways, even medical procedures, anesthesia, all of these things that alter your consciousness and your normal state of mind. I think those are definite portals that open up for entities to jump in and attach. I mean, like when I was a kid, I'd go to the state fair and spirits would follow us home. So, and my dad, we had wrecking yards and people would die in the cars. And sometimes they would stay around their vehicles and they would follow my dad home. So I've had an awareness of this my whole life, but most people don't. But for me, I've always had an awareness that there are things all around us that we don't perceive, but some of them perceive you. And if they're confused or lost, they might see your light as a safe place. You know, when people have like NDEs and stuff and they say they see the light off in a distance, I wonder sometimes if those are other human beings.
it could. I've heard people go to hospitals have an operation, and they come back and people say, sorry, Mom, sorry, Dad, but I remember my mother calling me one day and said, well, my dad had an operation of some sort. And she says, when he got back, he was changed. And she said, take it easy on him. He's kind of changed a little bit. You know, did he pick up something and not know it?
That could be even deeper. That could literally be like a soul swap. I mean, that could be what you call walk-ins, where one soul says, I'm out, another one says, well, then I'll take your physical body. And they had an agreement before the lifetime occurred that this potential might align up. And if they wanted to at that time do an exchange, they could. That could even be a potential as deep as that. Now that's a big situation. That's completely different. But from what I'm understanding is this is an agreement between the two souls prior to any swap happening. So there's no violation of anyone's free will as of what I've come across so far. It was like, no, we planned this before. I was like, oh, okay. So that's a difference. That's the work I do when I take people into their consciousness. These are some of the things that come up, and these are some of the things that their consciousness has an awareness of and a full understanding of it. So there's a part of you that's literally connected to this universal God consciousness thing, and it's everything. You're part of this, just the way you can perceive in the human avatar. You're not able to get past our 5% filter of visible light. We don't see 90% of what's around us. We don't have the ability through the 5 senses to perceive anything above the 5 senses that we're perceiving through. Even when you get into the 6th and 7th, senses, you're still seeing with more sensory ability, but you're still not seeing black light. You're still not seeing all these different spectrums of light and all this different stuff that's literally existing at the same time that we are. So our perception is really narrow all the way around. When you're in a human body, it's completely separate. It's separate from what you truly are. So this is an antenna system, and it can house your spirit in the body, which is a temple. So I think there's lots of opportunities for other things to try to catch a ride in your temple while you're here using your body as your temple. So we got a lot going on.
Robert, you're muted.
Yep, I say, Robert, I can't hear you.
No, you're muted.
Yes.
Yes. So sorry. Dogs are barking out there. I've been reading this book here, Spirit Releasement Therapy. And they were talking about in here about a person could have even hundreds of spirits attached to them and not even know it, because
I did a session one day with a client, and literally I got over 74 names of different entities that were inside of his vessel, like 74. And some of these were very high power level demonic names that I had heard of, but I'd never had any kind of contact or awareness with. But yeah, Beelzebub, this was insane. I mean, the names that were coming out, names I'd never heard before, like Ip, and just different stuff. I mean, just all different layers and kinds of names and different personalities. And they all had personalities, individualized personalities, identifiable. Like you could say, oh, wow, that reminds me of so-and-so, or that reminds me of this or that. You would have an identification with this personality coming through. Multiple names. And then one of them, he wanted to get out. And when he was working on that, he was raised 3 feet off the ground. It was incredible. It was incredible. I was like, whoa, holy macaroni. Yeah. So there's a lot of energy associated with this whole game going on too. I mean, they're feeding off of you. They're creating cravings. They're doing things to your personality, which affects the personal reality. They can instruct you to make choices, do things that's not typical of your own nature. So whenever you notice anything like that going on with your body, it's a good time to get a checkup and see, whoa, did I pick something up? Or what's going on with my system, because something's different. Always pay attention to that, because you're right. Don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt. I mean, these things are very, very subtle. And the hardest part of knowing is to identify, oh my God, what's mine and what's not mine. Because, we've got all kinds of just different stuff going on in the internal chatter and the body signals and cravings and just everything that goes with being human. So we've got a lot going on, but you can identify these things. But the best way I've ever seen is to go like into your own a light trance, like theta, just theta. You don't have to be like asleep. You can just be in a relaxed meditative state, and you can get into your own system and start doing a checkup. And these things will come up, and you can do it in a very safe way. So that's beautiful. Like you've seen Alba Wyman and Aurora Phoenix. They do the hypnotic work where people go in, and most of the session is dealing with pulling out, removing entities and energies and technologies and all of these things that we get attached to in our journey.
Oh yeah. Well, it says here they can lodge if you're weak, if you have an injury, they can lodge in your chakras or your organs, or it can lodge in any of the chakras. The host can be, so it can affect your organs in your body. And I'm thinking, well, maybe is that the cause of why some people, I have ulcers all the time. I have, I got this pain in my head. I got migraines. They're always got a migraine, or they got, my throat's always hurt and I lose my voice. I've heard those people, or they have a lump on their, I got a lump on the side of my neck, but anyway, or something. And I think,
this is exactly, back in the olden days, the churches, when people were sick or blind, they'd say it was a demon, so they believed it was a bad spirit. So this is the foundation of people saying something was wrong with you, medically speaking. It was always associated to demons. So which is a bad entity, bad spirit, which now we understand more as we've evolved through learning. We know now it's a bad frequency. It's a bad vibration. That's why it's called a dis-ease, because there's a dis-ease going on in the body. And a lot of it is spiritual, past life, post-traumatic stress disorder. There's so many things that settle in the body and create a dis-ease. And then when you go into the body and you give that dis-ease or that body part, like a liver or lungs or heart, you give those body parts a chance to speak. And the way I do it is I take people into the organ with their imagination and use a magic flashlight and see an image come up on a screen. And then once they can start gathering some images, then we put it up on a bigger screen and view it like movies. And these organs have their own memories, their own images, their own stories. So when you can start to communicate with your body, it's able to tell its story. And through that telling of the story, you can heal it through reaching a level of higher consciousness and higher awareness, which a lot of people like to remove stuff, change stuff. I don't ever do that. You've worked really hard to get your trauma. That's how you grow. So you keep all the memory, but you run it through a different neural pathway by seeing it from a higher place. Once you get to the higher perspective, you have all the information, but yet there's no more dis-ease or vibrational discord in the body anymore, because now it's gone, because now it's not running through the same brain as it was running through before. It's remapped itself, so it's completely healed. So you can go right back into an identical situation and try to get that trigger, but it just won't happen because it's not running down this different same memory banks. It's going to a different total location now, which is one of higher consciousness, learning, understanding, compassion, love, forgiveness. It rolls into all of those emotions, from trauma to healing. And once it's anchored into that part of the mind through an awakening, that's what awakening is, healing your trauma through higher mind consciousness. It's the gift. It's the ultimate gift. So you can heal this stuff. You really can.
And that's the thing. Some Off the Hook said something about, they were when there was probably too soon in the thing to ask, because he was like, how do I get rid of them? How do I get rid of these things? And I'm thinking, well, I don't know. If you don't even know you have them, you think, well, I got this pain in my arm, or I got whatever. I go to the doctor, and the doctor says, here, take these pills, and call me in 2 months, if they don't work.
Right.
Does it treat?
And sometimes it is a physical thing, and you need to go to the doctor and get your medicine. For real. There's certain things that aren't spiritual at all. They're real. They're just physical, real things you need to go to the doctor and get medicine for. Like if you've been going to the doctor over and over and none of the medicines are working, you might be looking at an energy thing. So something's out of balance. It needs to go back into balance. And you can get these things out of your body. It's simply by having an awareness of it. As soon as you ID these things, they lose their power. 90% of the battle's already over because you've ID'd it. This is the superpower of your imagination. That's why we are so precious, is because we have the ability to use imagination, and we are creative. We don't always do things the same way. We think of different solutions. It's just like, when they're developing AI to identify humans, if a human would do a different behavior and hop like a rabbit, the AI couldn't identify it as a human because it wasn't walking or doing like a human would. We would be able to understand that immediately. Oh my God, that's a human hopping like a rabbit. But see, these things can't. That's because of our imagination and because of our ability to be adaptive through imaginative processes. So that is what makes us so special and beautiful and powerful. And when we dream every night, we're walking around in different realities. We are so powerful. This is all things we just do organically. So when you're looking at healing different parts of you, when you can figure out, first of all, identify it. You can identify that something's there, 90% of it's over, because that's half the game. It's kind of like, the hidden powers of the world. They lose their power as soon as we see them. So it's the same thing. It's the same game. This is all about what's hidden and being discovered. So when you go into the body, like if there's a problem in the body, you get into the body, use your imagination, and we give you tools to help to get that imaginative process. You can start having memories, visions associated to what's ever going on with that part of the body, because every part of the body is mapping its own experiences. It's like the whole body is a beautiful map of experiences, and the key element to all of it is it's being programmed through, how did that make me feel? So when you want to understand something that's going on in the body, when did I feel like this before? When did I feel like this before? Your consciousness knows. So it will take you where it needs to go. And it's just brilliant. And it's so much smarter than your conscious aware the self that you're aware of. This part of you is just like amazingly brilliant. So that part of you guides you to find out what's going on inside your body, so you can release it through a healing process of just looking at it in a different way and releasing it. It's kind of that simple. It's very natural, very organic. And when you daydream, you're pretty much doing the same process. It's literally that natural. We've done it all the time. We did it as children all day long. We were in theta all day long. It was natural until we got to about age 7 to 9. Then we got the veil over us, boom, started getting into puberty, game over. Now you're going into full-blown human land, because you're no more connected to the child mind, which is the part that's still connected to that higher part of you that knows everything.
Yeah, because the children, they say the darndest things, and they even made a show of that.
They're wizards, I'm telling you.
Well, yeah, they are. Lucky, what do you got to say for all of this? So you're doing a lot of thinking over there.
A lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack with this. One of the things is, I've always felt that demons, kind of like, you have to allow them to enter, and it's something that you subconsciously, let them into your body. And that's one of the things is, we physical humans have all the power in the world, but those demons don't want us to know that. They want us to be scared. They want us to be under their control. So and they want us to believe that they have control of us. And if we believe, we surrender our power to them. That's why the priest can remove the demons, because the person would believe that the priest can, and of course, demons have no power, no strength, because they don't belong there. That's the thing. But you have to allow the walk-ins to come in. But that's a tough concept, because a lot of people say, I don't want to be possessed by a demon. But there's a door that you open, either a window or a back door. Something had to let them in order to get attached, and at least that's the experience I've had. And another problem I've had is the only demons I've ever met were protectors. They protected an area, and they had to appear scary because they needed to scare the problems away. But once I dealt with them, once I came to a place of compassion and love, they explained to me, like, this is the only thing I know to get them to go away. They need the people to go away, because people, they make a mess. A lot of people have no respect for the property. They have no respect for nature. So you might have an area that's haunted because it's trying to protect the area. But and the possessed people I've ever met, I just tell them it's under your control. Unfortunately, you have to believe in yourself. And a lot of them don't. So they have to go to somebody, who they believe in, to take that burden off of them.
Speaking of that, we were talking about The Exorcist, and because right now we're in that territory of people say, I can hear it in my head right now. People are saying, oh, I don't have an entity attached to me. Oh, that's only in the movies. Well, that Exorcist movie was, made about real happenings, but not all those entities are attached and act that way. But Trina, you had some sort of experience with that. And as we were talking about earlier, children, they don't know, they're more connected, and they're probably more apt to allow something like that in without knowing it. Maybe being manipulated, maybe.
This is a very interesting part about this point. This specific child had been in and out of the system since she was about not even 2 years of age. And the history with this was that there was heroin abuse the entire time of the pregnancy. So it appears that this entity attachment was with the child at birth. And I don't think that I don't know how there could be an agreement to that other than the mother agreed. So that's very interesting to ponder all of those potentials, because I do not know. But all I know is that I don't think there was an agreement or an allowance with this. I literally think it got into the child during its creation through her. I've always been able to see energies, and when I did look at the energy field of this specific child, it had holes in it the size of watermelons, and it was sitting crooked, and it was blackish gray. That was the energy field. So this was very hardcore, what it had done to the whole body, the whole energy field, everything. And I don't think that she had ever known life without it. And I don't know that there could have been any consent for that. But I don't know. I don't know. I really don't.
And then these entities can manifest and do wild and crazy things, that we don't understand. And this is where I imagine that at some point in history this happened, and this is where all the stories came from. Oh my God, they were floating around the house, they were witches, and they were doing this, that, and the other. And can this happen? Can this really happen?
I've seen it. I've seen it. I don't know how I've been always able to find these really supernatural experiences, but 80% of them happened when I was from the ages of like 9 to 12 to 13 years old, and then up as a teenager as well. But the majority of them were when I was very young, so I didn't have any information about any of this stuff. I had no knowledge of any of it. So like literally walking into a friend's house for a sleepover, walking down the hallway, the bedroom door's open to the sister's room, and she's levitated 3 feet over the bed. And I stopped and I looked at my friend and I looked at my friend. She just grabbed me. She's like, that happens sometimes. And she would not speak another word of it. But I saw that. I saw her floating in her bed for real. I mean, for real. And she was sleeping, floating, but she was completely, it looked like she was completely asleep, but she was flat as a board. So then I thought, well, I wonder if I could do that with my friends at a birthday party. And we did it. We 4 of us levitated my friend with the fingers, light as a feather, stiff as a board. We did it. It was simple. It was easy. So these things are real. So I've seen miracles and I've seen horrible demonic things. And then doing healing work with people. I had a friend that had so many entities in his body, and I've seen that child at age 12 launch 8 grown men and women like they were flies. I mean, they flew in all different directions, landed in countertops. 3 had to go to the hospital just in that first blast. Yeah, it was insane. I super strength, the voice changes, the strange languages. Yeah, that was witnessed, and it was witnessed by multiple people.
Yeah, see, the thing is that doesn't happen to everyone, and most people shrug it off, going, "That's not real. That's only in the movies," but it really happens, and you witness this, and that's the crazy part is people don't want to believe that. They live in their own little world until they see something. And Agaza was just saying that he woke up the other night at 3:00 in the morning and seen a shadowy figure at the edge of his bed. Couldn't see the face, but here he's got, but until you see that, you don't know, or you won't want to believe. I got a friend who's seen a figure of a shadow man. He's seen the arm, and to this day he talks about it. He's seen the arm and out of the corner of his eye, and he thought it wasn't real, but his buddy's seen it too. And then he knew they weren't dreaming. But those are the things that can really set on a person to say, hey, it's like seeing aliens. A lot of people don't believe in aliens until the day they see one.
Right. Until you see a ship or something, then you're like, okay, oh wow. Yeah. Because when you see something, especially when you've never seen anything like that before, it shocks the body. You have a shock. And the shock of the new information, the new awareness that you have, especially if it's frightening, that shock registers in the body. And that is our strongest memory file retention. That's how, when have I felt like this before? You'll get all the information of different events that felt like that same emotion. So we don't record thought. We're recording emotion. We're recording the feelings that those thoughts, what we perceived them as, and we're labeling them based on how it makes us feel.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. So with this, when this entity attaches to you, is there emotional and physical influence that attaches from this entity, and can it alter your path, and your karma? Can it alter your path on life? You're going down this road and it says, wait a minute, I don't like those decisions you're making. We're going down this road. I'm taking over. The reins here when you're weak. I'm going to take over. And then you're going to go down another road. And how do we know that it's us making those decisions, or is it the entity? That's what I wonder. And if you got rid of the entity, would you go back to making different decisions? A different life path even?
Well, it all boils down to choice. You're choosing what you allow into your consciousness. You're choosing what you allow to do with your physical body. You're choosing all of these things. I think that's why these different reality potentials have these different reality potentials, is because we do make different choices, sometimes that weren't anticipated. So Yeah, you can be influenced by a negative entity and say it was an alcoholic for 70 years and you
Mhm.
never drank alcohol and now you can't wait to get to the bar and that ruins your marriage and your family and you lose your job and you get a DUI. Yeah, that's going to affect your world in a pretty serious way. So yeah, these things can do that. But that's what I mean, that when before you're at the point of the DUI and losing your family, you have a choice to quit drinking. Why am I drinking now when I never did before? This is when you're like, you better put the brakes on, check yourself and say, what has changed? What
Yeah.
is this? Why am I doing this? I would have never done this before. Why am I here now? So those are monumental clues that, yeah, you're being influenced by something that is not of you, but nonetheless, you're still allowing those choices to be made because you're ultimately you're complying. Like Lucky says, you have to have some kind of an agreement. That's how
Mhm.
simple the agreement can be.
Wow. Yeah, because the Aaron Energy says, I think it must have had something that manifested it in my low sense of self worth, and then it grows and grows. But then later she
Yeah.
said, here when it left, oh my, I realized all of the negative self talk that was on repeat were not mine. How
Yes.
see that's what I'm saying is you may have made some enemies. You might have had a partner and had a big argument, and then later on went and finally got some self-worth, got rid of it, or somehow it detached, or maybe you put it back in the box and then went, why the heck did I do that? What was I
Yeah.
thinking?
And see, and also too, it's part of the healing process. Through her healing process, she started to get her self-worth back and build herself back up. And once she got to a certain level of thought vibration about herself, that frequency was losing its strength. And as soon as she got strong enough within herself, she could break that frequency altogether out of her field. And then that's why she was like, and then it all went away. But that's her power, her power. She chose to come into her power. And that's why she won, because she chose to let those self-talk come back in that's loving and supporting and saying, I love you and I support you and I nurture you. And all that other stuff is going away because we don't believe that anymore. We're going to love ourselves. And through that process, she shifted her internal vibration. The way she feels about herself was her key for healing and releasing all those energies that needed to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lucky,
Mhm.
you deal with these a lot. And could you tell us about their energy compared to our energy and what they can actually maybe do or can't do?
Which ones? You're asking about a nationality. There are so many different, like, okay,
Okay,
one of the
well then let's clear that up. Clear that up first, and
well, one of the
kind
entities,
of give
well,
some categories or
there,
something.
there are entities that hang out at memorials.
Okay.
Around my city, there are a bunch of these memorials for fallen war veterans, and I've been surprised, been seeing a war veteran there and going, "Hey, guy, do you want to go to light?" And he's like, "Absolutely not.
Hmm.
I get
Mhm.
love. They put the flags there. They put flowers there. They take care of it. I feel so much love and positively just being here. I don't want to go on the other side. I don't know all the sins I've created, all the death I've caused in the things I've done in war. But here, I am loved and respected. And I'm not gonna. I cannot. One of the things is that sending an entity to light, unless they want to, I can't do it. They have to want to, and those are the ones that are tough. Yes, and then they'll just stay there forever. Why do spirits stay? Because they get something from it.
Hmm.
That's the big the big entity that lives in the conservation there I go to. That thing. I was told by one of the people that go, "Oh, this place is haunted. I came here at night and all this stuff," and I'm like, "What? That doesn't make any sense." And then I found it, and it was standing there, and he goes, "Yeah, it was big and mean, but it wasn't. It just is. It's all like it's how I gotta get them. I gotta get these kids out of here. They're setting fires. They're littering. I don't mind them having a little bit of campfire, but they're leaving their bottle. You see it, you clean it up, because that's what I do. I walk around and clean it up, and it was so appreciative, and it showed itself to me as a much smaller being, but it can be big and scary and loud, but it can't really do too much. It can't hurt anybody, but it can make a lot of noise. Then there's the normal, honestly, what I deal with, I have friends who have haunted houses, and then I go and there's nothing. I'll see a small child and what's going on. Send you the light. Okay, cool, no problem. But they go, yeah, there's a demon in my house, and I go and it's not there. I can't find it, and I feel so bad. And I talked to another friend who has the ability, but he doesn't talk about it. He doesn't go anything about it. He's got a normal life, but he's like, yeah, I think she's imagining it. I'm like, I don't think she's imagining it, but I think something is feeding off of her fear. And when we come, we don't have that fear. It wants nothing to do with us. And that's one of the problems I have from helping people get rid of things, because I come in a positive, compassion, joy. I want to bring them to the light. I want to help. And the negative things go, I'm not going there with this guy. I'm going to go hide someplace, and I can't find it. It is weird. And,
Remember I told you a few months ago, one of my friends had to go into lockdown because she got taken over by an energy. Yep. And I know there's some type of agreement going on there, just like he says, there was some type of an agreement there. But I'm like, that's not a good agreement to have when you keep getting locked up in the funny farm for months at a time. And that's not okay. And hurting the people that you love, physically harming them. So I was like, that's not good. But the thing is like, these things are they're very manipulative, real. They do cause problems, and you can get them out, but it's very easy to do it if the person wants to. But if the person doesn't want it to go, it ain't going anywhere. So I would never suggest to help anybody remove anything. You just show them how to do it themselves. Show them how to get rid of it, but you don't do it. Don't you ever do it, because that's not real and it's not going to stick. And biblically, it says that they leave and they bring back 7 more with them. So you've just added to their problem instead of gotten rid of it. You've literally compounded it. So I think that's a very important part. Most people need to understand, when we want to help people remove these things, we need to show them how to do it themselves and let them do it. And you just help them do it and guide them through the process, but you make them do it. Because this is where I've seen real healing, and it sticks. Then there's no more return. But I'm not doing anything. I'm just helping them but get their own balance. They're doing it, not me. They're doing it. And I'm showing them how.
I can break the contract myself.
Yes.
You have to, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no other way. Right, okay. Right.
Well, you were talking about a contract, and you're right. Most of these things are contracts, and we did them on the other side, or in our subconscious, or in our dream, or somewhere along the line. But it's up to us to break that contract.
Only you can break the contract.
And only we can break it.
You have to. That's it.
Yes.
That's the truth. That's the absolute truth.
Yeah, and if you have to, maybe you have to do that in real life. Write it out and then rip it up and burn it, or do your little whatever you got to do to make it official. You know what I'm saying? Just like any other contract.
The most important thing you have to say is, why is it here, or why are you here? What did I need from you? Because that's one of the problems with some of these attachments, is they bring something to you that you might need. It's horrible negative. They feed off your fear. But something, it's like, the monkey's paw brings something positive, but something horribly negative comes from it. So you keep it around because it gave you something. And although it's tearing you apart, feeding off your fear, but again, you brought it in, and there was something to it that you needed, or you wanted, or, shiny, beautiful. Who knows what it is? I mean, some people who live in terrible, man and woman has the person they're living with beating them, and they stay and they stay and they stay. There's something the reason why they stay, and you go, why would they stay with that? There is something there that they're getting from it. We don't understand it. It's not for us to judge. It's for them to decide it's time. And these attachments, Trina's right. You can't take it off. You can't take a haunting out of a house. You can't take the attachment off of a person unless they're ready to release it. And then you can assist them, but they have to break the contract.
I get it. I like it. Okay. Well, that makes it a little clearer, because I think even, as
one time my dad.
Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead. You were talking.
Oh, okay. I say one time my dad's house, he moved into a new house and he had some crazy activity going on. I mean, like poltergeist stuff where all the cabinets would be open, the silverware would all be out of the drawers, thrown in sinks. I mean, big time stuff. I mean, poltergeist stuff, powerful stuff. He had weights in a weight room and they would do movement by themselves, toilets flushing on their own. I mean, a lot of crazy activity. And my sister was in Italy, so they came to visit, and they were going to go stay at his house, because plenty of room, blah blah blah. So they got so scared. I mean, they came to my house, and they literally, there was soda dripping out of the car. They spilled all their drinks. They all, when you said you look like you've seen a ghost, they were white. They were pasty white. They were so freaked out. So I went to that house to go just find out what was going on. What's here? What is this? And it was energy of the land. I think that was the poltergeist was feeding off of their fear. That's what the activity got so crazy, because it had always been minimal, never like that. But boy, when the kids and she was there and they got so scared, it got really, really strong. So I just went over there and I simply was asking questions of who was there, and I found out that there was a family there again that followed my dad home, but there was Native Americans in the house too, and they were the ones really causing the chaos and the poltergeist activity. And I was like, y'all need to settle down and be quiet, or I'm going to banish you. I'm going to remove you. I'm like, but just chill out. And my dad's fine with his friends roaming around this house. I'm like, so I'm not going to do nothing. Just be quiet until they leave. Just when they leave, carry on, but just don't scare the kids, chill out. They left, and I didn't even tell them to. I didn't say nothing to go. I just please be quiet, or I will do something, but I'm not going to at all. You can just hang out. And my dad was pissed at me after. He was like, you made my friends leave. I'm like, I did no such thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, he, like I said, he's a magnet for that kind of stuff. I don't know why. So my whole childhood has been filled with it, but I think he's a magnet, and he has some type of an agreement. So there you go. But yeah, I don't like that stuff. No, I want my house clear. But yeah, so I think I've seen so much of my whole life with that kind of stuff, and it's crazy because, just like I said, 90% of the time when you just communicate with these entities, which is not that hard to do, people put it so outside their construct of being able to, but it's literally just trusting what you're feeling and sensing. It's 90% of it. And it seems to make a lot of it, go away just by acknowledging that it's there.
Yeah, I grew up in a house like that with the weird stuff coming around. And unfortunately, I grew up in a farm. And near our house was a prison.
Too,
oh, near my house was a
Me
prison.
too. Me too. Like 4 miles from my house.
Actually, 3.5, 4 miles from my house. And they escaped. And they were coming to the woods. And there was all woods back then. And then they got to my house and they wanted to do something. And unfortunately for them, they got surrounded by this thing, and they were convinced that they were surrounded by, because they were chanting and sounds of stuff all around them. So they ran off our land into the street and flagged down a police officer, said who they were. So the police officer came to our house, another one, they took them back to the prison. And he goes, did you guys have loudspeakers, something crazy? And I'm like, I want to talk. He says, this guy says there's this demonist or a cult or something in your woods. can we go back there? And I'm like, sure. And I know the trails back there. I mean, we rode our horses back there. So, it's pitch dark night. We walk the trails, and he goes, and you could see where they were, and you could see like, scuffed up and they're, broken branches, and because there were piles of stuff they were trying to get through, and you could tell where they got, and you could tell the path they took, because they made them, ripped up everything along the way, because it's there was fences back there, and they ripped through the fences. But again, yes, I know it was haunted, but again, I never experienced them, and it was old Native American land.
Frequency. But see, that's what I think. That's how powerful what we feel is, because you have a affinity with nature, and you have a respect for the land and a respect for the spirits that are watching over that land. They don't mess with you at all. I had the same experience as a child. I never got messed with when I was out in nature. Nothing, everything. And I had animal friends. I mean, it was just crazy. It's the way it goes. But people that don't have that same frequency, they had a bad experience. There's bad experiences. And that is so true. But because of who you are, they're not going to mess with you. But because those people were coming to your house, they made sure that they wouldn't want to stay there. They knew how to get them away from you. That was protecting you.
They were very scared. And again, the police came a couple of days later and just wanted to see during the daytime, because the rest of the night, nothing. And my mother later came to me and said,
has it ever happened again?
Yeah, it happened a few times. Because again,
was it always because you were in danger?
Yes, always a danger. Yes. My mother came to me and said, "Are these yours?" And I'm like, I don't want to talk about. Because as a child, a very short story about this. I was a child. I was 3, 4, and I had an invisible friend. And he used to tell me things, and things that a child shouldn't know, and it would freak my parents out. I grew up Catholic, so my grandparents convinced my parents to bring me to the priest, and I got to talk to the priest as a small child alone. And the priest brought me back out to my parents and says, "I don't want this child in the church. When you guys come to church, he can stay with the nuns." The nuns loved me. They thought I was fantastic, but the priests, for years, when I got first communion, they were against it, because the thing I told the priest freaked him out. So, and still to this day, my parents don't know what it said to the priest. I don't remember, but I remember all through my growing up, I didn't have to do anything, because we were I was educated by there was, violent parents would volunteer for Sunday school. I still couldn't go to church. I could go to Sunday school, but I wasn't allowed in the church for years. And then finally, when I became old enough to be first, I think in my teens, the priest talked to me, and I had no idea what he was talking about, and he was pleased. And then he went off and retired and brought another priest in, and there were still stories about me, but I had finished everything. But again, I knew things that the priests didn't want me in the church, and I'm still not quite sure what I told that priest. And it freaked my parents out, because their child wasn't allowed in the church, but he could hang out with the nuns. And again, I go to Sunday school. I didn't have to do anything in Sunday school. I would come. They all had to say the Apostles' Creed and all these prayers that I didn't know, and recite them. They would come to me and goes, "He's fine. Don't worry about it," And it was when I came confirmation. You had to sit with the nuns for like 2 hours to say all these prayers and everything. I spent 2 hours socializing with the nuns. Didn't do anything. I came out and goes, "That was easy." Kids were in tears because the nuns were so mean to them. These were mean nuns that I never had a problem with. So what happened? I still don't know what I did with those nuns. Those nuns had a horrible reputation. And for me, they were the sweetest, nicest, grandmother type people ever. I think there was something that went in that church that the nuns knew about. And, they were nuns. They couldn't do much about it. But again, my stories are just get weird. I have a lot of weird stories like that.
Well, whatever you said that day or whatever, that must have been really powerful. because
a 4-year-old told a priest something that he was so scared or so bothered by that he told never let his child in the church. He can sit with the nuns while you're at church.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, other kids had to go to church. They had to go to Sunday school and go to church. That was required at the Catholic school, the Catholic church I went to. I was not allowed, and the kids thought, "What did this kid do?" And even in regular school, I never had a problem with bullies or anything because they thought, this kid, something's up when the priest is afraid of him.
Well, see, that's similar. Trina, you had similar experiences that they knew something was different about you too, you know, and that it you know, it's the clashing, because that I don't know, but I think, you know, that's that cult, or, you know, I mean, in a way it's a cult. They're trained and they know, and when the other half comes along or something, they're not able to deal with that. I think they've been told, but they don't know how to react to that or deal with that, because that's just been the, you know, passed down in stories or mentioned in, you know, their schooling, but they've never experienced that. You know, I mean, that's kind of how I think it is, but it's the two sides out there. I mean, we've all been taught one way, and then when something else comes up, people want to go into denial. And that happens quite a bit. Like we talked a little bit about, you know, once you see an alien or a ghost or something like that, there are people who have seen, you know, multiple times of seeing you know, a spaceship, an alien or whatever, and they go in denial and say, never happened. I don't remember it. You know, they don't want to talk about it. I don't believe it. I never did it. Never happened. You know, where the other person that was with them knows that they seen it. They both seen it, and they go in denial. No, never happened. They try to forget about it. They'll never admit it, which is really strange. So, you know, what do you say about those things?
I think that's what you can handle to keep your reality bubble intact. So some people will, when they're traumatized, they will just put that into a compartment into the brain, and it closes the door, and they have no access to it. They just put it into storage. Bye-bye. Lock that door. Other people, their reality bubble is going to be traumatized, but it's not going to break their reality apart, so they can see it. You can have 6 people witnessing, you know, an event, and 3 people might see it and 3 people might not. That's common with human beings. So, you know, we're only able to perceive what we can perceive, and that's based on your consciousness.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, and so when we get all through, you know, through all of this stuff, and we're realizing we're going to go home, you know, all these people out here that are listening tonight, you're going to have to sit down and realize, do you have an attachment or not? Think about it hard. Don't be in denial. That's, I think, the biggest thing. Don't be in fear. I think what I've learned tonight is not being in fear to attract these things, and you know, things like that. So anyway, I think that's a big part of it. There's Max Vision. Max Vision's in the house.
I think hi Max. I think if you have it, I don't know, at some layer and levels, I think that there are ways, there's fairness. So I think anything that you have as an attachment, you can get rid of it. But you know, it's a lot of people are getting rid of these things in the old ways, you know, which would be like an exorcism. But the new way is to where, you know, how Lucky, when you were saying, you know, these things don't want to leave. That guy at the memorial, he was like, no, I don't want to leave. I'm worried about what's going to happen to me if I go, because of all the horrible things that I've done in this lifetime. See, that's where I've learned to take it to a different level. I used to run into that a lot with scared souls. But I have a lot of memory in astral of doing soul retrieval. So that was kind of one of my jobs. Apparently when I'm in my dream state or not in my human form, that's one of the things I do. And I used to have to fight to get them out of these different realms to get them into the next realm, because their consciousness did that. I didn't do it for them. I was sent to get them because they had a shift in consciousness. and that sets off the alarm, because nobody gets you out of the darker realms. You do it yourself. It's simply by with what you think you feel. So I would go into these realms, but when you go to these lower realms, they would see your light, and man, these things try to grab you and get you because they think that you're going to save them. It's a savior complex. It's like, no, you save yourself. There's no one going to save you. It's just not how it works. So going into these realms, I used to try to pull these souls out, and many other ones would just grabbing a hold of you and stuff, and you're fighting and battling and trying to get out of these realms, and it was a shit show. So I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I started years ago by going, well, they want my light, but I know they've got the same light inside of them. So what if I can make them shine their light? Then maybe when they shine their light, the other people will be freaked out for a minute, just enough for me to grab them. You know what I mean? I was just thinking that's how it would work in my brain. Well, it didn't work that way at all. When I started, I'm staying above now from the crowd of darkness. Grab me.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna hover above for a little bit, and I'm gonna shine my light real bright, and then I'm gonna talk to my person I'm here to get about their light. That all they gotta do is make their light bigger like my light, and I play a reflection game with them. And through making them expand their light, then the other beings that were ready to transfer but didn't know how, or were lost in their own thoughts, and they were just thinking they were stuck and whatever. But by seeing another soul around them light up their light, then they were like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, type of thing. That's kind of what you were feeling was going on. Well, if they can do it, I can do it, kind of thing. So then they all started lighting up their lights. So you're not getting one, you're getting like hundreds now. And there's no fight, no battle, no bruises the next morning, none of that bullshit going on. So, wow, way better improvement. See, consciousness. We learn.
Yeah, we do. We learn.
There is a thing when I go looking, because I'll walk by the memorials, and sometimes it's, oh, you can see me. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. And then it's like being at a dog park and having a treat to one dog, and all the other ones going treat, 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 treat. And it's like the spirit sometimes that you don't come out of the woodwork saying, oh, you can see us, you can see us. Yes, I've had that happen. And honestly, of all the spirits I've dealt with, the humans who passed from trauma, they're so messed. They're so messed up. Some of them are, in helping them is,
just have them, don't try to help them. Just tell them to remember that the way they'll be less confused is when they bring more of their spark to activate, because it'll help their brain find a solution to where they're at. So you tell them, if you expand your light, that it'll tell your brain and give you ideas to help you out of your situation. You'll know the answers if you just do this. You find a way to trick them into helping their own selves. Does that make sense? And if they can do it, because if they just get it to expand a little bit, the feeling, they love the feeling, and it's a remembering. They remember that feeling, and then they're like, oh wow, yeah, I can do this. And then they kind of start to, and you have to convince them, say, all that going to hell stuff is a lie. You're in it right now. It's called, this is it. You're in it. You're stuck in your own consciousness. But when you expand your light, that's why it's called illumination. The sun comes. You'll have new ideas. You'll know how to help yourself. You'll know how to figure this out, and you'll feel better. Do you want to feel better? Well, yeah, I want to feel better. Okay, well, this is how we feel better. And you got to work with them sometimes to confuse them, so that way the confusion pattern will release the holding pattern, so they can burst forth their own natural loving light. But most of them are so dim, they have to build it up a little bit, and you can help them build their light. You can literally help them build their light, and that's okay to help them do their work, but they got to do their own work. You can't force them. Like you said, you cannot force them. If they don't want to, they won't. They won't. They just won't. So, but the ones that do, but they're not ready, they're scared, you got to let them know, everything that we learned down there, so much of it was lies. There's no punishment for what you've done. There are experiences, yes, but there's no punishment for what you've done. If you would understand The light, if you would expand your light, you would understand that in your own consciousness. I wouldn't need to tell you. You would know this for yourself. Those are the type of conversations that seem to transform people the quickest, is when you make them think about their own judgment on themselves and telling them, no, that's not true. And I know it's not true. Would you like to see what I'm telling you? I can show you. If you help me, we can expand the light and I can let you look inside of it, and I'll make sure that you're safe. You don't have to go inside, but you can look. As soon as they look into the light, they see their loved ones, they see things, and they want to go. So so I'm saying, you don't have to do anything other than find a way to help them to see what they want to see, to set their own self free. So you're kind of not doing anything but being a creative cheerleader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree with that. That's quite the thing. Out of all of that, I got something with that, and I kind of wondered. And somebody brought this up to me once and said, "Hey, you talk about this Native American stuff all the time, and the Indians were here way longer than we were, well then, and they did, when they, were doing their thing, their killing stuff was torture. They would torture their enemies, and they would, do all kinds of crazy things. They went to battle, scalp at each other and all kinds of crazy stuff. Well, then how come we don't see thousands upon thousands of Native American entities floating around here looking for their spot?" And I come to think about what you said was they were trained from day one, and when they passed, they had ceremonies to send them to the other side. They learned that, oh, all this trauma, when I get done, I'm going there. I'm just here for the fun and excitement, and I'm going to the better place. This is what it is. I'm going to the happy hunting grounds, whatever. And no matter how much trauma I go through here, the better off I'm going to be on the other side somehow. And they could make the transition without being plagued. Or maybe I'm wrong.
What, Robert? I think you are right, but I think that also you are wrong, because I've seen both. Okay. I've seen tribes. My neighbor who lived a mile south of me, they had found out later on, they had literally bought Indian burial ground. Okay. Her husband was a contractor. He worked for a massive home builder in Arizona. They were building homes from foundation to roof done, total completion in 3 months. They were building 12 houses a week. He tried to build his own home for 3 years. Every time we'd pour the foundation, we'd wake up the next morning to have a 2-foot crack right through the whole middle of it. It was one thing after another. Finally got it to frame. A huge dust storm came in, knocked the whole frame down. It was supernaturally weird. It was making him kind of crazy, because he built houses for a living. He was doing this all. Why can't he build his own house? This is making him lose his mind. Well, we found out it was angry Indians that were doing that. She went and saw a psychic. Her mom went and saw a psychic, and the reader said, "You have bad spirits on your property." She goes, "That's why I'm here." She goes, "My husband can't build this house, and he builds 12 a week, and we don't know what's going on, and there's a problem." She goes, "Draw me a picture of your land. Show me where you're trying to build this house. Show me where you're living right now on the land. Draw the map." She drew the map of the land. She told her, she says, "You are on the corner of the burial ground where you're trying to build your house." She says, "You will never be able to build a home on this corner ever." She says, "But if you move your house to this corner," she says, "you'll be able to build your house in 3 months." They moved it. They were able to build their house in 3 months. And one night when we were little kids, that was the first time I ever saw, before I worked in the home with the kids, because I was older then. But when I was a child, this was the first time I ever saw possession. Was one night, one of those drunk Indian chiefs got a hold of her grandmother, who never swore or never drank, and she went and grabbed a bottle of whiskey and drank half of it in front of us and said bad words and smoked a cigarette and then went back to bed, and blamed us the next morning for the bottle of whiskey next to her bedside table. So I literally saw her get taken over by a bad spirit and it wanted to drink. All it wanted to use her body for was to drink, and she never drank alcohol. So yeah, I saw that happen when I was about 9 years old.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I guess that kind of blows what I thought out of the water, but
but Robert, there weren't many Indians there, and it looked like that was a big tribe. So yeah, a few of them stayed behind, but look, they wanted to drink. See what I mean? Something was holding him back. So it doesn't matter if you're an Indian, it matters who you are as a human being. Doesn't matter what your race is, what your nationality is, what your tribe is, what your environment is. It's what you've chosen to do as a human. Decides on where you end up when you leave your human avatar. You go, and obviously he wanted to stick around for an off chance he could hit that bottle. And yeah, he did. I watched it.
Yeah.
Well, he probably stuck around to protect the he might have been a higher up who was protecting the ground itself. Might have been one of the final ones.
He was trying to protect the ground, and he was very angry.
They do that.
Yes.
That's the ones, the quote land demons. Those big Native Americans. They live off the protection, and they're scary, but because they want. So yeah, they'll do that kind of stuff. And those spirits. There are land spirits and there are people. You know, they're the land spirits you can deal with, but the people, the past dead protectors. Those are the most dangerous, because they'll do whatever they can, and you know.
Yeah, you know what was interesting? Like I said, he was able to build his house as soon as he moved it, and what they did was they regraded all that land, got all the construction debris off of it, got everything cleared away, and they used it for a horse corral and a garden, and that was their offering to the land, was to make it for the horses and for to grow plants and food, and that seemed to make them happy, and everything kind of balanced out.
That's all it really needs.
If
you're doing something that's honoring, it doesn't matter what it is. Some small fact that they're very.
And like I said, they would have did it 3 years ago if they had known what was going on. But literally, they had no idea about any of this supernatural stuff. And that's why she went and saw a psychic. She was at her wit's end. Her husband was losing his mind. She's like, I don't know where else to turn. You know, this is just crazy. So that was what she ended up telling her. And it was 100% accurate. And I knew it was true, because when that thing took the grandma over that night, when her shadow went through the candlelight, she had on a full headdress of an Indian. That's why I knew it was an Indian, because I saw the shadow of an Indian. That's how I knew what it was.
That wasn't just that. That was a chief. This explains a hell of a lot.
Full headset. Yeah, full thing.
He was not going to leave his people. That's what happened. But
I don't know, but it was the full headset thing, and we saw him when he walked through the living room. It was in the candlelight shadow. We were like.
No,
and I had witnesses. I had 2 people with me, 3 altogether.
The bigger the headdress, the more powerful the individual. So he was probably
very,
very
powerful.
He
was, the biggest headdress, the full feathers down the whole thing, because he went sideways.
Oh, that is amazing.
All the way down his back, the whole thing, all the way down. And the shadow was huge. The shadow was huge. It was big.
Bigger than a human being could be, right?
Yes, way bigger than the human. Yes, way bigger than the human.
I know those beings, and that's so.
It was so crazy. I never saw nothing like that before.
That also explains why the house couldn't be built, because that thing was very.
It wouldn't let it. It wouldn't. It ruined it over and over and over again. Would blow up the electrical box. It would wreck the foundation, knock down the walls. I mean, no way they were building that house. I mean, it was not gonna happen. And they moved it, and it was built in 3 months.
That makes sense.
Done. Yep. Crazy.
Wow.
Like I said, I have seen so much crazy supernatural stuff. I lived out in the middle of the desert. I only had like 4 neighbors. I mean, I had a dirt bike. I had to travel miles to go see my friends. That was just how it was. I saw weird stuff my whole life, and you know, most people didn't though. So that was kind of hard, you know?
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's one of the problems. Yeah, that's
Yes, it is.
It's challenging.
Wow. This has been
and it
very
was like
interesting.
all the time.
This has been super interesting. I hope everybody's enjoyed this. But we're gonna wrap her up here. Max Vision, everybody has started his class. I see people have headed over there already. So I dropped a link for that in there already. Don't forget, everybody, that tomorrow night we will be over on Nina's channel doing Horns of the Goddess. And I think I have a link here somewhere, but yeah, we'll be over there. Oh yeah, here it is. Horns of the Goddess tomorrow night. Hopefully I don't get called to work and I can make it. Sorry, Nina, about last week, but I had to work. I'd rather have done the show. Trust me. Yeah. I'd rather have done the show.
Yep.
But anyway, thank you, Trina, for coming on. And like I said,
thank you, Lucky. Thank you, Robert.
We're going to collaborate together a little bit and maybe do some shorts. I encourage everybody to go over and watch that 10-minute short that we did. We had a lot of views on that. It's been great. Lucky, thank you so much for coming on and all your wise and information that you can provide us with. Someday we'll have to get together and hear some more good stories too. Love the stories. Those are the best. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. That's my goal, my personal goal. And I know I will. I'm working hard as I can to get there. And we're going to bring good content. That's the best thing. We're not just bringing crap. We're bringing good stuff that's tangible and you can relate to, and that may help you have a better life. And with that, everybody, remember, go out and meet your neighbors, because, you might live on that dirt dead end road and you want to meet them. And if something happens, they're going to be the closest friends that you have. Be nice, smile, wave, do something nice for somebody else. It makes you feel better because you want to be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.